And we are live. Okay, it's the regular meeting of RFM and Agile Ventures. It's Wednesday, the 15th of August. It's Faith, Matt, Mike, Tonida, and myself. Matt, and you just appeared already on the FAQ page, I think. So let's usually, well, scrums are like that. You have retrospective, what did you do last week and what are you going to do, where are the blockers. So Matt, how about like the progress on the FAQ feature?
So yeah, I guess Mike and I have been kind of meeting kind of every day to do a pairing session around 5 o'clock UTC. So the idea is that every Wednesday we're going to make that RFM centric. So yeah, hopefully that'll catch on, and people are definitely welcome to join us. And this is the progress we've made so far. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see both your screens. So I can see myself talking, and I can see your screen on the left.
Yeah, yeah, with this, anyways, I can't choose which one to share, but I think that would be better because you can see the code base as well. So I don't know how you were thinking about having this displayed, but you were talking about maybe using semantics UI because that's what we're using, and I thought it would be kind of nice to be something like a jumbotron. And then Mike found this. And so what we've done is we added a row and a column. This paging reset we think is not doing anything besides maybe adding CSS that we don't actually need.
Yeah, I think it looks very nice. It's a so-called message, like that's a component in semantic UI.
Yeah. So then we played a little bit around with, we had this here as the huge header, and that looked quite nice. But depending on how long the sentence is, for example, this sentence maybe doesn't look so good. And also in Deutsch, it's maybe even a little bit longer than English. So we removed this. And the only other thing that we added, maybe I was saying that you, if I'm not mistaken, you prefer not adding CSS, specific CSS classes unless necessary. Is that correct? Or
correct? Yeah.
So
it depends heavily on the people in the team. If custom CSS is such a big of a problem. In general, I would like to write as little code as possible, because the less code you write, the less code you have to maintain. So every code that you write yourself, you have to maintain yourself. And if you can make use of frameworks that and try to leverage most of their functionality, then that would be great. And so also especially with CSS, I'm trying to get most out of the CSS framework. Yeah, and I find maintaining custom CSS hard. It depends. Like other people think it's not that big of a problem, but I find it very confusing sometimes.
Yep. So we kind of like we were looking and didn't find any way to add, like, this seems like it's too close together. This the title and the so I don't know, maybe you could add an extra div, but then I'm not sure that's kind of doing the same thing. So we added this and this I'm not happy with this either, because this potentially could everything that has a class column affect that, but we added like a 30 pixels of top margin.
Yeah, so everything, like, that's the problem here. Some of the classes have a special meaning for semantic UI, and I would never add CSS for a semantic UI specific class unless I absolutely know what I'm doing. So if I think columns in general have too small spacing, then I would go ahead and write custom CSS for it. Otherwise, you can indeed add in another row. And I think I was using sometimes so-called basic segment, which is invisible. It just adds some space. It's not the most cleanest, it's not the cleanest solution, but it is a solution. You can add a new row. Like, you can leave that as it is and just, the have you heard about the grid pattern in CSS frameworks?
Yeah.
So you would add rows, like HTML elements with a class and row next to each other. That means you would add it in between line 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's. I mean, maybe we can come back to it after we've gone around.
Oh, I think it's actually very important. How many people here have heard about a grid pattern or CSS frameworks with a grid system?
I have, but it's always good to I need to learn more about it, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I'm not very familiar with like CSS and stuff because I don't think I'm a good designer. But yeah, for example, Tonida or Mike, have you worked with the CSS framework so far, or Faith?
I've worked with one, React Bootstrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about the others?
Bootstrap. Yeah.
And I guess Faith, you have heard about Bootstrap also?
No.
Yeah, well, then let's try it out. Yeah?
I've worked with Materialize.
Material.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exactly. So we mentioned like 3 similar CSS frameworks now. We have Twitter Bootstrap. There's Materialize, which is based on a specification, on the design specification by Google. And we have Semantic UI. Semantic UI is what we are using here in RFM. And I think all of them are using a grid system. Yeah, you can, for example, show the grid system of Semantic UI. And you can also, for example, compare it with the grid system of Bootstrap.
So you're talking about gutters?
Not specifically. So what I mean is like most CSS frameworks have something like this grid system built in, and it's very, very crucial to them. Like grid system means you have, based on your display, on your screen, so many columns or rows. Usually you have columns, a fixed number of columns.
Yeah.
In which you can place your elements, right? So that makes it easier for you to arrange items on the screen in a way that looks nice to you. And for example, as far as I know, Bootstrap has by default 12 columns.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Semantic UI is using 16 columns. So if I want to have an item be half of the screen, then I can say it's 8 column wide. Okay, so I give the CSS class 8 column wide, and that will make this element 8 columns. That is half of the screen because we have columns in total. Why? It depends though, because if an element is inside a container which has already some spacing, then it will take, like a grid container, it would take half of the width of that container. Does that make sense? Like, can everybody follow me so far? You can also see the example on Matt's screen. Matt, actually, I would prefer if you could share just one screen and switch between your editor and your browser, because it's easier for us to see. Yeah, because it's much larger. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have 16 columns here, like you said. I'll probably make this a little bit bigger as well. I'm going to turn off this toggle animation because that's kind of annoying. Shows 4 wide columns with, so 16 divided by 4 is 4. 3 various columns. This one has 2. This one has 8. This one has 6. And then, if you look at the Bootstrap, they, like you said, they have 12 number of columns.
So something maybe in Bootstrap there's no space between the rows, the columns. And,
yeah, that's a good point. So you have seen that there in this example in Semantic UI there was some how do they call it, gutters or negative margin, whatever. that's not the default. So in this case, we have it, but usually columns and rows are close to each other. It's just in order to see it better, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, this relaxed keyword, for example, I think adds some more space to it. I don't know. So can you, Matt, what would you say is the big point about semantic UI compared to other CSS frameworks here? If you look into the code, can you see some difference or something that is kind of unusual or unique to semantic UI?
I noticed that like we haven't put this in a container. Like I tried putting it in a container and that didn't make any difference. So I'm not sure if that's because this message component has is the one that's adding the styling for that to be like this, to have the margin on the sides.
Yeah.
Can-
So yeah, Jonita?
Okay, it's Faith. Can you also say the UI? I don't know. Is UI unique to semantic UI? How the class name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, that's right, Faith. The point that I was trying to make here is like in CSS, classes are delimited by spaces. And the unique property of semantic UI is the combination of classes have a meaning. If you take Bootstrap and other CSS frameworks, they have long classes. Usually they have some combinations of some words, but they merge them with, for example, hyphens or underscores or whatever. There's even a special syntax. I think they call it BEM syntax. Could you, for example, search for CSS and then BEM?
I guess like Bootstrap does have like button primary, which would add like the styling to the button. But
so they want to add a unique CSS class to like elements, and then you have like this block thing, and then the next part would be the element, and then a modifier, and so on and so on. I think the point is here to have, I don't know, actually, I don't know what the problem is here to solve, but this is some CSS frameworks are making use of some kind of pattern, how they have the CSS class. And in semantic UI, the combination of different CSS classes together have a meaning. So we would say UI primary button, 3 different, or like here, UI just indicating, okay, this is semantic UI. Then you have a huge message, and page grid is something else. You could put that into 2 different elements. But you have, for example, a huge message. So you have a message object, like this thing should be styled as a message. It means you have like a darker background, and you have the border. So that's what they call a message. And you can say huge message, but you can also say small message. And it will shrink the size of the message, or it should, I think.
But that page is what's giving it its like padding.
Maybe, yeah, it's possible. I haven't seen using the keyword page together with message, honestly, but yeah.
And then if I delete the grid, for example, then that will take up. Oh, that gives.
I think you can add the keyword padded, for example, in order to get more padding. So you can say huge padded message and remove the page grid, because grid is another keyword indicating another object. So the point here is the whole philosophy of semantic UI is you have this combination, and it's human readable. You know, it's similar to in a Ruby in a sense, because Ruby also tries hard to have readable code. Semantic UI is the same. You have nice reading CSS classes, and they get their meaning if you read them all together. While in Bootstrap, I mean, can you just open some random website that's having Bootstrap and open up the source code, for example, just to take an example. I mean, this looks very nice because just container, row, column, that's it. But usually I know that websites get long CSS classes once.
What site has Bootstrap?
I don't know. How about Edge Adventures website? I guess they have.
Even
Yeah.
the site you are on right now,
Which one?
The Bootstrap site that Matt was on could have been using Bootstrap.
Yeah, I guess so. So at navbar, for example, here you can see it's navbar, then navbar hyphen inverse, navbar hyphen static hyphen top, collapse, navbar hyphen collapse, and so on and so on. And I find it heavily like it's a matter of taste. Okay, so you don't have it's people can have different meanings here, but different opinions here. But in my case, it's reading very verbosely. Is it correct English? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure. Yeah.
And that's the point that I like about semantic UI. But the points that I don't like is that semantic UI is very heavy. I think it's pulling in a couple of megabytes, which is I don't know if I would use semantic UI again if I had the chance to. I'm not quite sure if I really like it, but I like the idea of making use of the combination of CSS classes, and that's something I really like. Yeah. Other CSS frameworks are different. So you all know Bootstrap, which is the most popular one, and it's a very maintained one. On the other hand, every website has Bootstrap, so everything looks the same. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Materialize, and I think Faith, you mentioned Materialize. Is that right?
Yes.
You're muted. So what can you tell us about Materialize? And maybe Matt can show us Materialize in the background.
Yeah, we use on Championer 1 as well.
So what's the big deal about Materialize?
I don't have a preference, or I had to use it because of the project I was on. Like they were using Materialize. But I'm not sure if the code review wasn't thorough, but would in most cases use our own classes and not use exactly what Materialize do.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're writing custom
And then,
CSS anyways.
yeah, then we did a lot of overwriting.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, which I'm told is not so good.
Yeah, usually a framework should help you, not be in your way, right?
Yeah.
I noticed that they really favor this pink color, which is a bit strange, I think.
Yeah.
But I guess that's maybe preference. Like having a nav bar with a pink nav bar is not.
That's something you can customize. So
Yeah.
definitely something that you would like to customize. Every company has its own corporate identity, which is a set of colors that you should associate with the company's name or the brand name, for example.
One thing I thought was cool was like this color palette that they have, where you can just call it like red, light, and 5, for example, and that will give you this color here. You know, so this you can add like a CSS class for this color instead of like actually going and creating a CSS class and then adding the CSS class to the background color. You can just add like red, light, and 5 as a class, and it will become that color.
Yeah.
So that's quite cool because it has lots of different shades and yeah, different shades and yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like that too. For me, Materialize looks very fresh. The thing that I know about Materialize is that it's actually not one framework or one implementation. It's many. Like Materialize is actually a specification, not an implementation. Google has a design specification. You can also search for Google Materialize spec or something, and you should find it very easily. And Materialize CSS, the one that you are showing us right now, is just one implementation out of many. Materialize spec. I don't know. If you open it, I'll be able to see it.
On GitHub? No.
No, Google has a website for it.
Design, material design.
On material design. Yeah.
I know. I was noticing that they have like components and they have JavaScript stuff going on.
Yeah,
Like-
that's up to the implementation. So Google is describing, I think this is it. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's by Google. Could you check the imprint maybe? And see if it's the actual page of Google. You should be able to see it in somewhere in the footer, I guess.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Google. Yeah, developed by Google. So Google has an army of designers, and they set some standard design specs which all of their apps should later on follow. And this is their design specification here. So they are describing things not in a way that, like, they're not providing an implementation for it, and a CSS framework implementation, whatever. They are having a specification in which you could use also in like mobile apps and so on and so on. It doesn't really matter how you implement it, but yeah, this is like the specification, and all the implementation should get as close as possible to that design spec. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's Faith. You've said that all their designs should be close to this as possible. So is it all their designs, or is what RFM like? Do you mean RFM, or do you mean like Google themselves?
No, Google themselves. This design spec here is made by Google. It has. You can also see on the Wikipedia page when it was introduced. And not every Google product is following this specification here, but more and more are using that specification. It's like also like Erkennungszeichen in German. So that would be.
Actually, they just updated my email to look neater, my Gmail. So I don't know if they applied material on it.
Materialize. Yeah.
So what I was trying to, the word that I was trying to find was recognize. It should be recognizable. You should look on the design and you immediately see, okay, that looks like Google or like Android.
Okay.
They have also some usability specs. So for example, a button for adding things should always place on the bottom right corner. There should be a plus symbol and you should click on it. That should always create something new, like a new document, a new whatever. Yeah, so this one here is the actual specification. And Materialize CSS, the website that you were showing us before, is one out of many. I know that implementation. Honestly, when I was checking it out like 2 years ago, I wasn't quite happy with it because there were some flaws that didn't the actual specification.
Guys, sorry to do this, but I've got to go because I have a technician here that's looking at the SSH for my and I'm being blocked by them. So sorry about that. I'll try to join if quick.
No worries. It's all right. I will. I'll continue that. Or maybe someone else. Faith, how about you? Could you share your screen?
So I'm using my phone. I left my charger at work.
Bye, man.
You can share mine. Yeah, let me share mine.
I left my charger at work, so I'm connecting through my phone.
Yeah, I see. Is anybody here with a laptop except me?
Yeah, I can share my
Yeah. You are going to show me. Also, I'm a little bit interrupted. My brother's just standing in front of me. I think he wants to ask me a question.
Okay. Say hi.
Wie lange brauchst du noch ungefähr? Weil man überlegt, hinten in der Therapie zu spielen. 20 Minuten, halbe Stunde. So lange noch? Ja. Oder wäre es dann okay, wenn du gleich einfach einsteigst? Also spielst du nicht von Anfang an mit? Ja. Ja? Okay, dann fangen wir schon mal an. All right. So there we are. Material design. Yeah, that's the website.
Yeah, you're saying something about the floors.
I was saying something about the floors.
But when you had looked at it about 2 years ago, you noticed some flaws.
Yeah, right. Flaws. I wasn't just happy. I wasn't just happy with it, and I was checking it up. is there something like, I don't remember what exactly it was, but people were complaining on GitHub for not having many ways to customize it. And I think they had even some problems with their grid system. So if I placed an item somewhere and it was appearing totally somewhere else than I was expecting it to be. Maybe it has improved in the meantime. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But yeah, with that particular implementation, I wasn't too happy with materialized CSS. Like, I really like this material design, but I also tried out many other materialized implementations. There's not only materialized CSS. There's also paper material or something like that. Just, for example, search for materialized implementations.
Materialize.
You know the difference between an implementation and a specification?
I don't.
Can maybe specification will be a template, and then implementation is now that template now being created using whatever what do I want to say? It's CSS, so you can only use CSS. What am I saying?
Just try, no problem.
So you have sort of a blueprint, that is the design, and then now implementation of the design, you can have that created in whatever way you want. So for example, I can say for Bootstrap, so if they want to, you can create the same design but using Bootstrap, or you can the same design using Materialize or any other CSS framework.
Yeah, basically you explained it perfectly. I couldn't explain it better. I really like the metaphor of having this blueprint.
Can I ask something? Yeah, like for example,
can you open up the website for us? Yes, and Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, for example, when you're doing okay, I've never done this with Python or Ruby, but when you do Java, there's this design principle where you develop interfaces, and then when you develop classes, the classes implement the interfaces. I'm not sure if that's clear. So does it mean that Google maybe has created some interfaces somewhere that guys can just implement in their own ways so that they come up with these material things?
Yes. So you're pointing out the connection between interfaces in languages like Java and specifications. And the advantage of replacing things afterwards with other things that are also implementing the same interface or the same specification. Yes, that's correct. So specification is just a very broad term explaining, it means like a blueprint or like a description of something, the description of some kind of behavior, let's say. But I really like Tonina's term, it's a blueprint. And if you have, for example, if you take Java, in Java you have special language constructs like the so-called interface. It's describing a list of, for example, of methods which have dedicated names. They have a dedicated, like a fixed set of arguments, and they should have a dedicated result, a return type, for example, right? And every object that has those methods can implement that interface. That's also something like a specification. So specification, interface, those terms are very interconnected. And yes, if you have something, if you have 5 objects that all are using some kind of interface, you can at some place replace them. Like you could have different implementations based on back to Materialize now. Those implementations look all the same, more or less, because they're all implementing the Materialize specification. So to the end user, they should look more or less the same. Like if you go on a website, it should look like Materialize CSS. You should be able to do the same thing with just another implementation of Materialize. So that's the theory, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did I answer your question, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because I always try to answer the actual question. And by the way, that was the theory. The practice is, or the truth is, it just doesn't work. All right. So those different Materialize implementations, they behave totally different. And yes, it's not possible to do the same thing in another. It's just not, they are not that advanced. If you look at Materialize CSS, you can check out the GitHub page, for example, and see which people are implementing, like who is developing Materialize CSS. Can you somewhere find the
GitHub? Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And now see who is working on it.
Contributors?
Yes. So there are 2 people who are working on it in reality.
In reality, yeah. Major contributions are for 2 people.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who added a pull request or something, like 1 commit or something like this. Yeah, 7, 6 commits, 5 commits, and so on and so on. So those people added a pull request to it, but there are 2 main contributors. And those 2 contributors are not Google employees, as far as I know. You can check it out. Just click on the profile pages and see if you can find in some respect a connection to Google.
Okay. So for example, him. No? Should the profile have the organization, right?
Yeah, normally. You don't know. Maybe he is in fact at Google, he's working for Google, but we never know. But at least he's not showing it on his GitHub page. So I don't think they are working for Google. They're just random people who implemented some Materialize implementation of this Google spec. Okay.
Yeah, no Google.
It's fine. I love those guys if they do it, right? So criticism it. It's just to show it to you. This is not Google. It's based on a Google specification. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess it didn't pick up after a while.
But at least it's a very popular framework. It's 33 people have liked that repository already.
Yep.
All right. So this is about the different CSS frameworks. Yeah, and we are using semantic UI. Yeah, Mike?
From that long talk, you said, okay, we were talking about 3 major UI frameworks. Then you said you will not use semantic UI again if given a chance. And then
there are many other CSS frameworks. Those 3 are just the 3 CSS frameworks that some of us know, right? You know Bootstrap, Faith was knowing new Materialize, I know semantic UI. There are many more. There's there's sorry.
There's this one I just came about a few months ago.
Yeah.
Design.
It becomes so currently is becoming quite popular. I don't know how.
I really liked it. It was oh, interesting.
Maybe it's currently down.
My internet is right.
There we go.
Connection.
Yeah.
Yep. I sort of liked it. It's it's taking forever to load.
Yeah. So what I don't like about semantic UI is it's very big. I don't know how big the size is, but I find it too big, and it always looks. It's not very flexible. For example, I like borderless design, and the semantic UI is just not like it's not it doesn't have many objects or components that have like no margin or something. Most of them are always coming with some kind of margin, of spacing. And I also think that semantic UI is better suited for desktop. So for websites that you would check out on your desktop PC, and it is responsive, but I don't think it looks very nicely on mobile phones, on small screens. But it's a matter of taste, actually. I wouldn't say it is like that. It's just my opinion. I have the feeling that it's like that. Couldn't really argue that it is like that, you know?
Yeah.
Opinion matters.
And I think also experience, right? When you use different things, you get to know which one works for you and which doesn't.
Yes, of course. And here you have the advantage of not writing custom CSS. Maybe we are going to change the CSS framework of RFM. It will be a major work to get everything migrated to the other framework. But since we don't have custom CSS, it won't be that difficult, because we were just using components of a CSS framework, which are very likely also present in the other one. The complexity of our code is not that high. Okay. So if you have low complexity, it's easier to refactor it and to maintain it, or to use a new framework or whatever. We kept it simple, stupid, you would say. Like, there's this KISS principle. KISS meaning keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can check that out. Just Google KISS principle, and you will likely.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, but simple, stupid. It was noted by the US Navy in 1960. Yeah.
And it's very important to keep your code not to add much complexity to it. It's very, very crucial.
And so there's this conversation of, would you rather have write fast code, or was it fast code, or I've forgotten.
Rather fast code, or what's the other?
What's the opposite of faster code?
Fast.
Like when you
slow code?
Elegant.
No, I've forgotten. But then the concept is like, it's like when you're writing a ternary operator, you have the option of writing an if-else statement. So which one should you
have
like go with? Because now we have, which one should you go with, considering the fact that if you're saying you want to keep it simple, would you consider ternary operator simple? Like, would you? I'm just.
Sometimes the connection is also dropping, so that it makes it a little bit more difficult to listen to you.
Okay, I am saying, I have just forgotten the exact statement, but it was, would you rather make your code simple, fast code, or simple code? But I remember the argument. The argument was writing.
I think, and I know what you mean. So, do you want your code to perform very fast, to be very fast in execution? Or do you want your code to be less complex? So people who are like human beings who are reading the code are able to understand it. Do you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes in programming you have this conflict. Okay. Sometimes, not always. Usually, simple code is also performing very fast. So most of the time, there's no conflict at all. Simple code means usually fast code. Most of the time.
Okay.
There are, however, some occurrences where there isn't actually some kind of conflict. Like, you can either choose to go for the more simple code and the more faster performing code. Okay.
And
then I would say that's the optimal, or the answer to most of the questions is, the answer is, it depends, right? Of course it depends. It depends on the problem you're going to solve. Do you have a problem that needs faster executed, like a fast executing code, like very performant code? Do you have something very time critical? Then you don't think about writing easy to understand code. You will obviously take the path that will lead to the most performant code. All right.
Okay.
As if you would choose a programming language. Ruby is an interpreted language, which means it will never be as fast as a compiled language, like, for example, C or Rust. And by that, I mean, you can still write very slow applications in Rust.
Okay.
You will know what I mean. Like, doing the same thing in Ruby and in Rust will probably be faster in C, Rust, or Go, whatever, because it's compiled. Okay, so it doesn't need to be interpreted at runtime. But it depends. If you're, for example, writing a web application, that doesn't really matter. Having a Ruby on Rails application is just fine, because it's not that time critical. If you're writing your own operating system, you will not want to write it in an interpreted JavaScript or Ruby for that reason. Does it make sense?
Yes, a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have the option, so let's say you're writing a Ruby on Rails application, and you're thinking, I could optimize this code. Should I do it? Because if I optimize it, it will be less readable. Then I would usually not optimize it, because I think the cost of adding optimized but hard to read code to the repository, to the code base, is more expensive than potential performance improvements. But it depends. It depends really on the situation and the problem that you're going to solve.
Okay. Thank you.
What's your opinion about it, Tonida and Mike?
I sort of agree. I think these days I'm more inclined to whereby if I have a problem, I think I'll start by getting the simplest solution and maybe optimize it as I go. Because I think like optimizing from the word go makes you waste a lot of time, maybe. And secondly, maybe you'll be, at the end, maybe you realize maybe the difference is not that much in terms of performance, and you waste your time to get it to a certain point. So yeah, just start simple, and as requirements change, or you feel that it needs to get better in terms of performance, yeah, you get there. But when solving a problem, I just think starting with the simplest solution.
Mm-hmm. There's also another, I absolutely agree with you. You can optimize as you go, and you have to calculate they have to weigh the time that you spend into optimizing code, and sometimes that doesn't work out, and so on and so on. There's also another quote: try to solve optimization problems as soon as you have them. A lot of developers are optimizing the code for no reason, right? Yeah. And in the end, it's not faster at all, because if human people think it's optimized or it's faster in execution, a lot of times it's not. Just people look at the code and they think it would be faster. If you really try to optimize a problem, you first create a benchmark that will actually count the execution time for an example problem. And then you try to optimize, and then you compare it. Did it become faster in the end? And because then you can be sure. Don't try to write optimized code while you're writing it the first time. Don't compromise. Don't compromise for readability. Try to solve the problem first. And then as soon as you have an optimization problems, for example, you have a lot of traffic and the web server is going slow, then it makes sense to optimize it. But please do a benchmark and then really be sure that you actually did something, like you have solved a performance problem. To be sure.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
That makes sense. You've just mentioned something that I wanted to like ask about traffic. There's a concept in which, so if you have a system that say it's only at the end of the month that you have a lot of traffic, but in the rest of the month you don't have as much traffic as the end of the month. So I'm made to understand that there's a concept of how you can implement your system such that you create it in a way that it only caters for a specific traffic towards a specific time. And when there's no traffic, your system just works as normal.
Yeah.
So what do we call that? Like,
yeah, like a P?
yeah. So it's like somebody was saying you don't want to say, I don't know if I can't remember his exact words, but he was like, you can't add, say, more servers and the first 3 weeks of every month, no one or close to, say like no one visits your site. So you're wasting the resources in the first 3 weeks. The only time it's being utilized, it's towards the end.
Yeah.
So do you know, like I hear there's a concept of how you can handle such a situation in a way that the only time you use this extra servers is at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then, what is that?
A waste of resources, maybe?
So what's the name of how you handle that?
You mean what is a possible solution to it?
Yeah.
Many cloud providers are advertising their service of providing a solution to that problem. The ultimate slogan or the ultimate promise of those cloud providers is that you only pay for the resources that you actually use. So perfect cloud would be you have some kind of application running on several servers, and as soon there's a peak in traffic, the cloud provider takes care of, like, it's all automated, so there's no person just doing it. Like the cloud provider is adding more servers and starting applications on more nodes, so can balance the traffic. Okay, so that would be a solution to it. But there are also other solutions to it, like just optimizing your server so it can handle the incoming traffic. That would be another solution, but probably not really answering the intended intention of the people, of the person who was asking that question. Was it a question from the interview today?
No.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a question where the person who's asking the question is expecting some kind of answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the expected answer was probably cloud service.
Or maybe load balancing.
Or yeah, but load balancing is just load balancing is how to balance your load. You know, you have 10 servers and you don't want to be under heavy traffic and 9 servers on basically idling. You want to balance the load on all of them. If you have a lot of traffic and you just have too small resources, then you want more resources at that time. That would be using some kind of cloud technology or cloud provider.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, we were talking for an hour already.
Ooh.
I would like to come to an end. So we learned about CSS frameworks today, about grid systems, also some general opinion, I would say. Can we try to how to say? Can we try to? I'll share my screen for a second. Somehow. Assign tickets, for example, to people, so people feel comfortable with some kind of goal. So apparently you were working on the FAQ issue, is that right?
And I have a question. should we consider adding a back button?
A
Or
back
how do you expect? Yeah, a back button once you've clicked on a question.
Yeah, that would make sense. So where would you want to? I like that idea. Where would you want that back button to be?
Middle, the middle, maybe in the middle.
So
Once
is
click
it
to the
on a
page.
page which is already online, or is it on the FAQ page?
The FAQ.
Ah.
Once you've clicked on a particular question, how
Yeah.
do you go back?
A back. Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about a bug. You're talking about a back button. Yeah, that would make totally sense. So we have the similar thing here. So here you're on
Yeah.
some kind of index page, and there's back.
Yeah.
And this will bring you back to the index page. Yeah, that's great, because you
Okay.
also have like an index page probably, or as even more nested page, like we are on visualize/demography. And if you go to visualization overview, that's something like a back button.
Okay.
And it should be here. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah, of course, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay.
And if you want,
I had done that.
yeah, do you know how to do it already?
I had done that, so I'm just not so sure if I did it in the optimal way, but I did that. I did that before the call.
Yeah, you can, for example, just check out how is this template here implemented.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you just go to the front end and templates, and then you try to find the template which is used for visualize. I think it is in fact called visualize. Yeah, okay, so this is the visualize template that is always rendered if you are on any page which is nested in visualize, so including the index page, but also this. So it is empty, which makes sense. But yeah, if you would have something that you always want to include on every subpage of visualize, then you would add it here. So the index page is actually, I guess it's in visualize, in the folder visualize, and index. Yeah, there we go. So this is the actual index page. And you have here, by the way, here you can see the grid in action. So you have one object grid. This goes from all the way down to here. Okay. And then you have rows. It goes here. No, the row also goes until there, I think. Yes. This is a row. All right. And then you have columns, which are yeah, you have a doubling 3-column row. So there's so you have rows, and every row can have a number of columns. Or if you want, you can define how many columns a row has. So column. There you go. Okay, so this will try to make all columns the same width. Not exactly what I was talking about. Maybe here. Okay, so you have two options where to start. So the first thing is always a grid. Then there's either the columns or the rows. It depends how you want your site to be structured. Either you structure it on the first level as a number of rows, or you can structure it on the first level with a number of columns. Okay, but inside each row you have columns. You can have columns. Okay, so this is how we do it here. So if, for example, you go to the visualization index page, you can actually see it. Yeah, there you go. So this is the row. This is the row which has 5 columns, and some of them are stacked below because it's 3-column row. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So you have one row, but it says it has 3 columns on the same level, and then the other columns. And the more columns you add, those would go, they will all automatically be centered. And if we would, for example, add a 3rd row, then those 2 here will go to the left, and there would one more here, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And you can also change it here. How about that?
Okay.
Cool, huh?
Yeah.
And this doubling means, like, if you change the screen width, then for each device jump, so we have in semantic UI, we have different devices, like device sizes, and they reflect like tablet, mobile. Have you seen this before?
Yeah.
You have your different devices. Most of them, they're like semantic UI structures them as follows, like mobile, then tablet, and then large screen. No, and then computer, I think, and then large screen. So this is mobile. Yeah, tablet is also 768 pixels. So doubling means if you have a smaller size, less the size of each column will become larger. So a doubling. So let me think. Doubling 2-column row would mean something that is 2 columns on a large screen will become 1 on a mobile, because the column itself has become so large that it's spanning the entire width of the screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they have it also in other CSS frameworks. I think it was inspired by Bootstrap, doubling something. Okay.
In Bootstrap, I think you have to do the media queries or something.
Okay, so you have to do it manually. Here, this is really convenient because you just say doubling, and it will always add the right size to it when you do this. Like, boop, there you go. Or we can also add it, make it more. We can, I don't know, let's say 4. So this is on large screens. If you go smaller, boop. And then it gets smaller, smaller, smaller. There we go. Because it's a 4-column row, this will not jump anymore. Yeah. I always have to try it out before I really understand it. So 3. Okay, interesting. Okay, this is going just small. You always, when you do some implementation, you always have to check if it actually looks good on all different devices. So that's something you should definitely do. And here you can see that there's some blank screen up here. This is actually not very nice. Something in here is too wide. So you see this white screen thing? Yeah, that shouldn't be there. It's not visible on small and bigger devices, and yeah, but on mobile. Yeah, okay, so that's the point here. So you have always grid, then row. The row in this case is going all the way down. And then you have columns, and you can have as many columns as you want. Or you can do it the other way around. You can have a column and then the row nested inside the column. Then you would have, for example, it would say, I want an 8 width column, place it on the left, and then you can have many rows. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Those would all be on the left side because they're all nested in this, I don't know, 8 width 8 width column, yeah, on the left, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the grid in action. Okay, yeah. So Faith, feel free to add a back button. That's actually very, very important. Did you already push your commits?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you can always just create a new pull request. There's no pull request yet. So you can always create a new pull request and add just say, I don't know, interesting. So even if it's not, even if it's not finished, you can always add a pull request and say WIP, which means work in progress. This means this branch will not be merged into master. It's not ready, but you can get a quick review. You can also request a review from one of the maintainers, for example, me.
Okay.
Right? Cool.
Yep.
So you want to add the back button. I really like that. Tonida and Mike, is there something like you would like to work on? We only talked about front-end things today.
I'm also interested in a backend.
Yeah, Faith, you're also interested in the backend?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're, let me share my screen again. If you're interested in the backend, at this point, I mean, there's one open pull request on the backend. Maybe it's a little bit boring because I'm always referring to it, but I mean, there's so much in here which can be improved that I still really suggest that, because, okay, so this one here, it's so important that you improve that one. Every time I see 2A after a database query, this is not necessary. This is really a performance problem, because it's nicer if you can do this with just the SQL query. So version Ruby optimization. So this is a premature optimization, but it is a worthy one. So you can always do it. There is no cost to it. You will have more readable code, and it is also it's faster, because do you know this? Have you seen this before?
What?
Like how to improve active query optimization, why you should not use, for example, why you should not use active relation find all. Or just all. So there's one particular blog post, I think. It is even deprecated now. Yeah. So the point here is, I mean, post all queries objects from the database. Okay. So if you are, this is something for you, Mike. You're also interested in the backend, right?
Yeah.
So do you know that active relation is some kind of what? Database. Big database. Okay. So we have our models in Rails, and you all know that if I say broadcast all, for example, that will query the database with SQL. Did you know that? Like Tonida and Mike, do you know that we have some kind of mapping between the database and Rails?
Yeah. So
this one here, every time I do this, there will be some kind of SQL statement done to the backend, and you can even see it. You can always say to SQL. This will give you the SQL, which is going to the database. And the point that I'm trying to make is always try to put as much as possible into that query. So let's go back to the pull request. Here, what is impressions? Impressions is, okay, it's on the user model. You cannot see it, but it's in the user model. So impressions seems to be the impressions of the user. So we have no explicit caller. So impressions will be the impressions of a user. We can do the same thing if I just take one user. user first. No, first. This will be a user. A user has impressions. Okay, you know that already, do you? Like how associations work in res.
Yeah.
And this also is a database query. Did you know that?
To SQL, no.
So this will always give you the database query of any call to active relation. We have our model impression, and we have our user, and we have this connection. In a code, we can see it here. Models user there. So this one here has many impressions, will lead that one user can, if you have a user, you can say dot impressions, and that will give you all the impressions of that user.
Okay.
Right? This is what we do here. Like U is our user. Actually, much better, right? No abbreviations. Okay, but if I say user impressions, this will give me a number of 63 like impressions. This is the join model between broadcast and user. And Mike was doing to A and then sum. Which gives us a number. It is valid code. It is valid code. So he's taking the impressions, he's converting it into an array, and then he's doing the sum of all amounts of an impression. So this is a let us see what's going on. Okay, so you cannot see anything. Sorry. Okay, let's take maybe one. So this here is an array. It's an array. Okay, you know what an array is? Array is like this. Okay. We have our impressions array is just very large. We have 63 of those impressions. You barely can see it. Like this is one element. Here you see the comma. Okay. There's another comma. Okay, so I apologize for this large array here. But he's when he has the array, so is executed here, and as soon as he's saying to A, well, the SQL is actually executed right here, because to array will always read from the database and put it into the main memory of the computer, of my computer here right now. And this is suboptimal if I want to do something like the sum of the amount. Okay, because we can do that in the SQL query itself. So impressions is still to SQL. This is what we do on the database. We are not calculating some kind of sum, but we can do that if we say sum amount. That's possible. It gives us the same result. The SQL is actually okay. So that doesn't work. That's sad. Usually, we should see an SQL statement here. So for some reason, it's immediately transformed into a number. But okay, I was talking for quite some time. Do you understand what I'm trying to explain?
Yes, some amount.
Yeah, like what you're trying to say is that doing select all from database just instead of select amount, just specifying the column that we want, because we want to sum the column.
Ampersand.
It
something like that. Okay, so I just summed 1, 2, 3, 4, which apparently is 10. By the way, this is what I was looking for. I was blind. Like the SQL is always executed right in front of my eyes. So here you can. So this is the proof. This is actually done on the database. The database is taking care of summing the impressions table. Okay. Much faster, and it reads nicely. Like 2a.sum and then something is hard to read, while this actually reads much nicer, doesn't it? Right?
Some impressions. Yep.
So long talk, but no action. I advise you to check out Active Relation Query Interface. This one is crucial. It is so important if you want to become a Rails developer. I hardly suggest it. Like, I really suggest all of the guides, but this one here is very, very important if you want to do anything that's related with the database.
Okay. And then I saw you used count.
Yeah, count, for example, is also here.
So they say with Rails, the time complexity of it is like you'd rather use size than count. It's more optimal to use size than count.
It's more optimal to use what?
Size.
I don't think so. So this one here is also counting on the database.
Okay.
Do you mean something else?
Size, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I read somewhere, but it was just a blog, so maybe it was just the guy was being opinionated, but he said the complexity of count in Rails is higher. Is it complexity or it's time complexity? Yeah.
Yeah, there are these complexity classes, but this is more like theoretical computer science. So I was doing one quick check. So this one is doing the same thing like with size. And as well, you can say, so first of all, we are getting the user, and then okay, so size and count basically the same thing.
And they're 1.6 milliseconds and 4.6 milliseconds. Is that what the guy was talking about?
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. As far as I can tell from the SQL statement, this one here behaves the same as the other one here. Count and size, same.
Okay.
You can see it here. It's exactly the same database query.
In the purple, what is that time meant for?
Which time?
The purple, the colored purple part.
The colored part.
The purple.
The purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this is the database, the query time. But I wouldn't say that you can say that count would be slower than count. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, look at that. So it's 3.9 milliseconds. Yeah, you can safely ignore that. Like, it's really just something if you have something time critical.
Okay.
1.5 milliseconds is perfect. 1 second would be slow.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so please go ahead and refactor that code.
Okay.
Right?
I will.
So that would be something. And Mike and Teonida, sorry. How about you? Is there something that you would like to get your hands dirty on?
I think
I can also help.
I'll take a front end.
The front end. You would like to do the front end.
Started learning Ruby a week ago, and yeah. I don't know. I can take maybe a good first issue so that I familiarize with it. Yeah, I'm thinking the visualize graph one, whereby add a color legend to broadcast relationship graph, seems something I can get my hands on.
Yeah, so let's
what do you think?
that out. You see my screen, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
problem is color. I mean, it's
Yeah, front end mostly. That's pull request, yeah.
what do we have? What's that?
It's the first one.
Did the first let's
What's that actually?
it
Yeah,
should
the
be on
check out
top.
the other. I also check out the other. Okay, but yeah, the highlight the color engine was this one here.
Yeah.
I would say it is a good user interface. Sorry, it is a good issue. So I think he's referring to what exactly, actually? The similarity graph. So similarity graph, you can find it here, relationships between broadcasts. You just click on it a couple of times. So the question is, what the heck is actually going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the relevant sentence. So he was saying that we should add a color legend to show that the color types are encoding the media types. So I can tell that the blue ones here are all TV broadcasts. The green ones are all online broadcasts. And the orange ones are all radio broadcasts. Does that make sense?
No.
So we have a database of broadcasts. All right. Sorry. We can find the database here. And there are TV broadcasts.
Okay.
There are online broadcasts, and there are radio broadcasts.
Video. Okay.
And there are so-called free radio broadcasts, which are yet something even more special. Okay. But yeah, you can, for example, go to the website and then even check out the free radio show. Like, free radios are independent radios. Okay, it takes a little time, but you should see it at some point. Okay, wow, it took a lot. Okay, there it was. Okay, so here you are. And then you can, for example, just play it. So this one is radio. And the similarity graph shows similarities between broadcasts and similarities based on how often those broadcasts are supported by the same people. So you can see, for example, a strong correlation of these radio shows here. Like, this is something like a group or something. Like, there's a very, very similar, they are all radio shows. So apparently the people who support these broadcasts are listening to the same set of radio shows, I would say.
Okay.
And they are even by the same station. So I'll show you something. You can find the actual data for this code here. Have you opened your developer tools once?
Yeah.
So you can search for so-called XHR requests. This is Ajax and HTTP request. I think that's the abbreviation. And if you do reload, then you will see a list of all HTTP requests. And this one here is the actual request that's getting the data. And if you click on similarities, you just click on it. Like, I'm currently on Chrome. And then you click on either response or preview. This one is, I guess, the same thing as preview, but preview has, you can like expand and inspect the data. So you have links and notes. For example, this one here is node number 387 and has a title Nashorn, Zebra, and Co. And the group. And the group is the color. So all groups have the same color.
Okay.
And what we would like to have is some kind of color here explaining, like maybe one button, like one blue dot, TV, then a green dot, online, and orange, radio, and maybe even some for this independent radio thing, but there's no color yet. But yeah, maybe we can just stick with those three first.
Okay.
All right. I would even make it statically. So then the colors here, yeah. So let's work together on that. You can try to find something. I would start like that. Is there something, color dots or something? Label? I don't know. I would try to find something here in semantic there that looks similar. Maybe this one here. I would even go for a labeled for a colored label. Why not?
Okay.
Or this one here. You can always check out the source code. Like you can just copy paste that one into the template and see what happens.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
So try to find something here in semantic UI, which looks similar. And then you add, these three labels to it. And then you get back to me because we have to figure it out that the colors, first of all, we have to add translations to it, right?
Okay.
If you say German, those should the labels should change.
Right? Yeah.
And I will make sure that the colors will always be the same. Like green is always group 0. Because it's actually automatically assigned. Like there's no color scheme that we are using. We are just using a default set, and this might change depending on this number here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this would be something for you. Yeah. Just adds here a row.
Yeah.
I think it's in front end. App, templates, visualize, and I guess it's graph.
Yeah, most probably.
And then you have, here you see it. So this is the header. And by the way, this is how you can translate things, by the way. This one. The translation.
The T.
The T, that stands for translation.
Where does that come from?
That's coming from Ember Internationalization. This is a plugin for translation.
That's awesome.
So here you see it. This blah, blah, blah will cost so and so. This would be in a translation file, translations for English. And then you can add it like this.
Ooh.
Okay, so you can even have more numbers to it. Like this one will read, you have no photos, or if it's one, you have one photo like this, and this will add this letter of the number here at this character. It's also very nice. So you can localize numbers, plurals, currencies, date formats, and so on and so on. And of course, you can just translate some text. That's also no problem. Very interesting. Ember Internationalization. You can also check that out.
Yeah, be a good one to look into.
Yeah, and here would be your place. So I think this is the actual visualization. You can add something here.
Okay, at the top.
All right. So, and Mike, how about you then? Did you,
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'll work on some backend stuff, but lately what we've been doing with Matt is to pair a lot on stuff. So maybe I'll go through the issues and pick one.
Yeah.
One that's maybe beginner friendly and pair on it, and maybe work that out.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a preference just yet.
Say it again.
I don't have a preference of what to work on just yet. I think I need to go through them more deeply and pick one, then one or two, so that I can work on them.
All right, cool. If you're pairing with that already, you can also ask him and do whatever he's working on. He's also working on RFM, so you can also just pair with him if you like that.
Yeah, sure. Did you fix the issue with Docker from last week?
So that was actually not a Docker. It was an issue with geocoder.
Geocoder,
No.
Oh, okay.
So we have a bug in production, and it might create data. But I can't help it. Because the geocoder, the providers have announced that how to say the service has ended. Like they went down. The old geocoding service for UAP is not working anymore.
Okay.
And the new alternatives, they're not working for us.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to find a more creative solutions.
Okay.
I haven't found it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, remember the same. This is it, or do you have any questions?
Not from me.
Not from you. Tonita, maybe, or
very...
No, I don't have the. I'm looking at the README to see how to set up.
Has a look back.
Yeah.
I think Mike, could you use your microphone, please?
Oh.
Yeah. So I think that. Yeah, I'm looking at the README to see how to set up the app locally on my machine. I don't have it yet. So should I just follow the steps there, or is anything that is not on the README?
Everything should be on the README. Please try out the README, and if you run into any issues, tell us.
Okay.
Contributions to the README are heavily appreciated. You can immediately change it if you just click the edit button, right? If you want.
Yeah.
But or just tell us if something is not working as expected. There are two ways now how to install it. The Docker installation, which should work. Actually, I would suggest you to use the Docker installation. Do you know Docker already?
Yeah, we have been trying to been involved in website one whereby you are trying to set up the Docker setup. I mean.
Yeah.
Sort of have an idea.
Yeah. So if you do this one here and everything works fine, this section here. Oh no, this. Oh come on. Okay, so I have to highlight it like this. If you do this and everything works fine, you can skip this whole section.
The local installation, right?
Yeah, so local installation or Docker.
Yeah, I think I'll go the Docker way.
Yeah, just try it out, because I was, like 2 weeks ago, I was working heavily on the Docker installation for RFM. Last week, I was heavily working on the Docker installation of another project. And yeah, so I learned, I'm Docker, I'm now Docker Robert.
Cool.
Yeah. you have any
Okay,
questions with that, you
thanks.
can also just reach out to me and ask me questions.
Okay, good.
Yeah, in general, if you have any questions, feel free to text me during the week, or ask if we can pair together. That's also for
That
you,
will be.
Mike. Sorry?
I'm saying that will be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do so, of course.
Okay.
We have to pair anyways. If you want to do this label thing, we have to write translations for it because you don't know how to
Yeah.
write German. And we have
Yeah.
to fix the group numbers to the colors so they won't change. And that will require some more changes, on which I will help you.
Okay. Once I've set up the UI part, I'll let you know.
Cool. Yeah, if you haven't done the local installation, that would be actually the first task. Just try to set up the local installation and tell me if something is wrong, because the Docker setup is actually very new.
Okay, I'll keep you on the loop.
Very good, very good. Thank you. All right. Any questions?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you too. It has been a good chat.
Say it again.
I'm saying thank you so much. It has been a good session.
Nice. Cool. Oh, and Mike, you were asking what kind of graph is it? I'm just seeing your message in the chat window. It's called a relationship graph. You have nodes and edges. And you can find more about it. Like it's implemented with D3.
Okay.
So this is the last thing. So D3 graph. I don't know what's the name. Wait. Force directed graph. Yeah, it looks pretty much. So the automatically layout based on the edges and how strongly connected nodes are. All right.
Yeah.
Go. All right. It should be it, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. It was a pleasure. Yeah, feel free to text me, ask for pairing. We'll see each other during next week. So I'll say all the best. And I'll hit the stop button now.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.